All right, everyone. Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football, live on a Saturday night. It almost seems like college football season, doesn't it? Mark Rogers TV live, college football, Saturday night. Here we are, 9:30 Eastern time. And again, my apologies. It was about 9:10 or 9:15. I was doing some other work with a big business here, building the brand, building the voice of college football. And I thought, you know what? I want to talk. I want to hear from people, and I want to talk some college football. So let's go live at 9:30. So that's what we're doing. Even though I've got a list like that long of things that I need to accomplish. If you would only see off camera here what we have in regards to a muddled mess of equipment and stuff that I'm testing out and trying to get set for you so we can deliver a better looking product than we currently do. And also, it just hit me again today, as it does almost every day. I got to get cranking on season previews, huh? Season previews and predictions. I see all these other people with their season previews out there. I've been doing position previews. How many of those do I have out there? And just in the next few days, I'm going to deliver top 5 ACC quarterbacks and running backs, and also top 5 SEC quarterbacks, running backs, and wide receivers. So you guys can always let me know what you would like to see. If you have recommendations of what you would like to see, and the only time I turn you down is if I say nobody's going to watch the UAB offensive line preview. If you can guarantee me a couple thousand views on that, hey, I would love to break down the Blazers offensive line. I would love to do it. You can't imagine how much I would love to research that and talk about Joe Blow at left tackle, who's 6'7", 305, and the left guard. Yeah, I'll do it. But nobody's going to watch. All right, let's get to the live chat. And then also we're going to go through some over and unders and anything else that strikes you as what you would like to talk about tonight. I looked online to see, okay, what is kind of a catchy subject, topic that we could discuss and debate, analyze. Didn't see a whole lot there. So we'll start with this. CBS Sports just released their version of over and unders. And so we'll look through those. All 130 FBS teams. Auburn, Lige, is on the line. On the live chat, War Eagle, Zachary G, as well. All right, we've got our first call coming in. Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. Okay. Who's on the line?
My man, you're on.
I'm on. You're on. We're all on. What's going on?
I just wanted to bring up this Urban Meyer, Zach Smith BS that's going on, that he's going to
Oh, boy.
USC.
Yes. Let's bring it up. Let's talk it up. What do you think?
I keep double checking it, and I'm seeing a lot of other sports sources that are saying, no, it's not happening. It's not happening. But that was sports. What was it? 247 Sports.
Okay. Yes.
Said that's what he said. So I just wanted to bring that up. I tried to watch and see what your other guys said from Ohio.
Yes.
That would,
we talked about it Wednesday night. Yep. Okay. All right. My take isn't going to be anything that's going to clarify the situation because I don't know the man. We don't talk on a regular basis or anything. But by the way, everybody, this is Navy Thomas. Faithful. I don't even want to call you a supporter, viewer, anything like that. I don't have a good name for you, Navy Thomas. But this is Navy Thomas 8 on the line with us talking to Urban Meyer. Okay. So you got to think, looking at Urban Meyer's past, Navy Thomas, that that there's reason to believe that this could be something that he would want to do as a challenge. Okay? He's done this in the past. He's one of the best coaches in history. He's only 54 years old. So on the side that would lead us to believe that he's going to take a USC opportunity would be, number one, USC's not that good right now. They have a coach who has underachieved the last few years, especially last year at 5-7. So the the position is ripe for the taking. You believe that Clay Helton's going to underachieve again, and so the job's going to be open after 2019. It is a place in which he could go in and, you would think, dominate. He could go in and clean house in the Pac-12 compared to what he has had to face in the Big Ten and the SEC in regards to competition. Look at the competition in that division. Colorado, UCLA, Arizona State. And he loves a challenge. He loves to coach. To be able to go to Florida, Ohio State, and USC and win national championships. Talk about a legacy.
Dude, time out. One second here.
Yes.
I don't think I remember ever seeing that the latest USC coach has been fired. Heckleton, or I can't even remember the guy's name.
Clay Helton. That's why I'm here.
I wanted to throw the ball to you and say, take a swing, baby.
Okay, that's my swing right there on the pro Urban Meyer going to USC argument. And I'll add to it one more point. It was easy to see that at the point in which he was suspended by Ohio State, that he was not pleased with that verdict, despite there being all the critics out there that wanted to see him fired or suspended for the season. He did not believe that he did anything wrong, nor should he have been suspended. I don't want to say, I don't want to put words in his mouth. Based on what he said, yes, he said he took some missteps, missed a few things, but he did not feel as though his actions warranted a 3-game suspension. That was pretty obvious by a number of indications, and also that they stayed in those negotiations until like 9, 10 o'clock at night. He did not believe that he warranted, so that rubbed him the wrong way.
Now, wait a minute. I want to bring up the USC situation. They had that ex-Tennessee coach,
Lane Kiffin.
I don't even want to remember his name.
I just reminded you.
He bailed out of Tennessee, then he went to the USC, and then he either quit or got fired, and then they hired the next guy, and now this story about hiring Urban Meyer from BS. I'm just like, what is this? Some kind of divorced marriage being forced between all these people, or what's the damn deal?
Tom, also understand that there was a comment made by Reggie Bush, the great USC running back. So what's going to happen? What's going to happen this season is that Urban Meyer has been hired by Fox, so he's going to be a college football analyst on Fox every Saturday, and he's going to be surrounded by Matt Leinart, USC quarterback, Reggie Bush, USC running back. Reggie Bush, when Urban Meyer was hired by Fox, made kind of a flippant remark that we're going to be up there, believe us, every week we're going to be up there recruiting Urban Meyer to USC. So that comment was made, and he was quote unquote joking, but he wasn't joking.
I'm just, all I'm trying to telling you is, I tweet you the forwards as to what the hell's been going on, or what I see is going on, and maybe I'll add later on going, hey, I'm not buying into this, but that's all I wanted to bring up to you, and I wanted to talk to the most fantastic MRTV chat room in the world.
Absolutely.
To understand what the hell's going on.
So I'm going to put the odds at 60-40 against right now. That's my hunch.
I'm at like 80% against them hiring him.
All right.
But that's all right, my friend. I wanted to catch you live. I wanted to throw that in there. I wanted to have that little discussion with you, and I'll be watching.
All right, Tom. We appreciate the call and the support, man. We'll catch you on Twitter soon.
My friend.
All right, we'll see you soon.
All right, bye.
Navy Thomas. He's been wondering about this for weeks. He has hit me up on Twitter a number of times in direct messages about what is going on about Urban Meyer. Is he going to go to USC? What are people talking about? Well, that's what they're talking about. It seems to line up. And I know that Urban Meyer critics tend to downplay or make fun of his health issues. They are real, people. We're talking about a man with legitimate, serious health issues. Oh, two calls coming in at the same time. Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. Who's on the line?
Hi, I'm one of your faithful followers on the chat. This is Anthony.
Absolutely, you are. I appreciate the
Mark,
the call
I have a
tonight.
question.
Yes, sir.
I'm not a USC fan, but is Clay the reason why I'm going to ask? What
the heck happened here?
Hiring a person? Huh?
Give me just 1 second here. We had a bit of a technical snafu. Yeah, there we go. One more time. Is Clay Helton from where? From California?
Yeah, you know how Miami hired Manny Diaz?
Sure.
To do, like, he understands the recruiting in Miami the best. Do you think USC should hire a coach that would energize the recruiting base in California?
No.
And stuff like that?
I don't think it matters. I think that's icing on the cake. I think that if everything else is in place and they got the man that they want, if he's a USC guy or from Southern California, that's a bonus. But I don't think that's necessary. No. Pete Carroll's not from Southern California. He was amazing at USC.
That's what I've always wondered. Why do people put a big emphasis on having connections with the coaches and having their college? I've heard fans say they would rather have a person who knows that area when it comes to football, being like having a good connection with the coaches. Do you agree with that?
It's an intangible, meaning that if you hire someone who knows the history, the tradition, the culture, the environment, that they're more prone to take that seriously, to be able to connect with the fan base, to be able to connect with the alumni, the high school coaches in the area, in the state, that they just know the lay of the land. Just think about yourself and what part of the country you're from, what state, what city, just knowing how people interact and the culture, the environment in that part of the country versus going to somewhere that you've never been and aren't familiar with. And especially when it comes to that particular school where there are well-founded traditions. Jim Tressel at Ohio State made a comment once that all things being equal, that he's going to take the kid from Ohio versus the kid from Texas or California, thinking that when the going gets tough and it's in the middle of two-a-days and he needs another rep out of that kid, he needs him to struggle a little bit more, hit that blocking sled a little harder, or it's in the fourth quarter against Michigan and, he's been nicked up and he's bruised and he's battered and he's hurt and he's struggling against a double team, that kid might be fighting a little bit harder. It's just a theory, fighting a little bit harder, knowing that he's playing for his state school and he grew up an Ohio State fan versus somebody who grew up in Texas. And sure, they're playing hard, they're doing their best, but just doesn't have that added incentive.
So yeah, that's what I'm saying. I like the kids from Miami that understand the rivalries between Florida State and Miami and Miami and Florida and stuff like that.
Yeah.
To understand that you have to compete a little bit harder against those people because you grew up watching those teams. You understand the tradition of the rivalry and stuff like that. So,
yeah, I'll go to the well with Ohio. I'll go to the well with Ohio State one more time. When John Cooper was hired in 1988, he diminished the Michigan rivalry, just said it's another game, another Big Ten game that we need to win. And he kind of diminished the importance of the rivalry. He didn't emphasize it. 13 years later, after going 2-10-1 against Michigan, he got fired. He didn't see the rivalry as special. He wasn't from Ohio, didn't understand it, knew about it, because if you are in the college football world, you obviously know Ohio State Michigan's a huge rivalry, but he just didn't embrace it.
You think, honestly, though, I have a question. Do you consider? I know Florida State and Miami are the more well-known rivalry. Do you think Notre Dame and Miami was a really well-known rivalry throughout the years as well, or people didn't really pay attention to that rivalry as much as they do like Notre Dame USC or something like that?
So rivalries are grown and built and developed for different reasons. Geography is the biggest one. Conference play and geography. When teams have to struggle past each other consistently to win a conference championship, for example, and that's why most of the big conference, most of the big rivalries in the nation are between teams that are geographically close and they play in the same conference because they're fighting for the same prize.
So and the same recruits is like recruiting as well, like
and they fight
for the same kids.
Absolutely, that's a byproduct of it. But on the field, they're fighting for the same thing. The Miami Notre Dame rivalry is very unique, and it was born out of the perception, the image of those two schools and football programs and football teams being so diametrically opposed. The good kids, the Catholics, yes, versus the renegades, the inner city kids, and it was way overblown, but it was a perception that was steeped somewhat in reality. And also the old guard, Notre Dame being the most well-established, storied, elite program in the history of college football, Miami being a new, as our friend Cam Underwood likes to say, microwave dynasty that was built in the early 80s. Yeah, an upstart program that was disregarded for a long time and then suddenly reached national prominence. So you just had so many differences between those two. And because they both had independent status at the time, they could schedule one another. And then they had some games that were not, well, at the time, Miami was much better than Notre Dame. And this was just prior to Lou Holtz taking over at Notre Dame when Jerry Faust was at Notre Dame. And there was a famous 58-0 game in which Miami just blasted Notre Dame.
I don't understand. People blew that game out of proportion. And I look at the record books for like Michigan, Ohio State, Notre Dame. It blew a whole bunch of people out. But when Miami did it, they did that to Notre Dame. People got mad saying there was no class. That Miami had no class when they did that.
Yeah, people overreacted to
people
that.
People never expected Miami to do that? Is that what it was?
Well, Jimmy Johnson made the comment, and you can see this in the ESPN documentary about the series and about there's obviously a couple of different series involving Miami football, but one
the
is
first one, the one in the 80s. I know the one you're talking about.
Yeah, and I think they also did a documentary where they focused strictly on the Miami and Notre Dame series. But anyway, in which he basically was
Catholics versus convicts.
Yes, absolutely. Very interesting, fascinating stuff, as you know. So Jimmy Johnson basically says you can go back to the game tape. You can go back to the box score. He wasn't this explicit. It didn't explain it to this degree, but basically to say, I can't tell our third string players to quit. I'm out there running the clock. I'm running plays. I'm running plays. I got third stringers in the game. We can, I can't tell those kids to lay down on the field. And I can't verify that. I don't remember. I remember the game. I watched the game.
Said that. He did an interview after a fan or something from the Cowboys asked him about that game against Notre Dame, and he said, "I don't understand why people got mad about me blowing up Notre Dame. I I understand it was Jerry Faust's last game, but you expect me to tell my players to not finish the game?
Sure.
Yeah, that's what I don't get. People don't understand. Why would he tell his players to lay down on the field, like you said? Like, it makes no sense.
All right, we'll take an unofficial poll, and we'll ask the viewers out there, the folks in the live chat, how they like to play and approach a game. And considering the age demographic of my audience, I can guess how they would approach a game in which they are beating somebody down 50-0. How do you approach the fourth quarter? Do you take the gentleman's knee? Do you run running plays, or do you go for the jugular and just pile on points because it's a competition and they're all athletes and they're all competitors? I have seen and argued both sides.
I don't understand that whole, like, and I think it was personality-wise, people didn't like the brashness of either during that time either, because they celebrated during doing touchdowns and stuff like that, because like you said, most of these kids were from the inner city, and during football games after a touchdown they would celebrate and stuff like that. So
absolutely,
people, the blue collar teams like Nebraska, Texas, or Notre Dame or Michigan didn't understand that. They found that as offensive because it was too, like, outlandish and stuff like that.
That's right. Absolutely. All right. I appreciate it. Thanks for the call. And certainly we will fire up the call-in shows here more readily. And we appreciate the call, man. Thank you.
Have a good rest of your weekend.
You too. All right. 860-325-3687. And I get on here with a call-in show, and I realize, well, I didn't realize that you don't even know what the number is. So I got 3 calls coming in regardless. So thank you for keeping track of the number. We got somebody else that's keeping track of the number. All right. Here we go. All right. It's Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. Who's on the line? Bash. We had a little argument the other night about something. I don't remember what it was, but what do you got for me tonight?
It was a playoff.
Oh, the playoff, the 16 playoff.
Yeah. I'm not really searching for an argument here, just a couple of topics. First off, what you were talking about the gentleman's kind of finishing a blowout in sports, and specifically lacrosse, because I'm a part of a rather new program. Both sides, the side where we're blowing a team out and the side where we're getting blown out, right? And when they put in their JV players, these freshmen and sophomores, into a varsity game against us, and we're varsity level for our school, but for these guys, they're getting first-time varsity exposure, and they're playing their hearts out there, and they're just playing the game that they love. I'm not going to really hate on them, and frankly, it was great, too, seeing some freshmen and sophomores, underclassmen, who got into the game when we were blowing the other team out and got involved in scoring, got involved in the game, making big plays. So, honestly, if you're putting in your backups and you're letting your second and third string go, then just let them play the game.
Absolutely.
Do that. Only run out the clock, run the ball, take a knee if your starters are still in the game, because you're basically saying, well, my guys are better than yours. We're just going to get out of here.
There you go.
There's no point in just continuing that. That we don't need another Georgia Tech Cumberland.
222-0, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. That's what it was. I knew it was 220-something to nothing.
222.
I guess 222 across the board.
That's it, Bash.
So,
what else is on your mind here?
So I'm going to also talk about the most polarizing team in college football. Can you guess who that is?
Okay. Give me a second here. Polarizing. People love them. People hate them. Well, the obvious two come to mind out of the SEC and the Big Ten. Hang on just a second. Everybody hates on Notre Dame as well.
Ohio State.
It's Ohio State, okay. It's Ohio State. All right,
They're
polarizing.
one,
Oh, absolutely. They were one of two that came to mind right out of the gate. Alabama, Ohio State. Okay.
Okay, so we're talking about Justin Fields and Ryan Day. New head coach, new quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
This story has... Sorry about that. This story has multiple different... do you hear that background?
I do not. You're fine.
Okay.
What is going on back there?
Out over,
or should I ask?
Flipping out over nothing.
Oh, the dogs are fine. Let the dogs play. All right.
Okay, I'm going to call back later.
Okay.
I'll
get a handle on those dogs.
The dog is going crazy.
All right. Get a handle on the dogs. We'll talk to you later. Just calm the dogs down. I was okay with the dogs. The dogs were fine, not interrupting the show. Let's jump in the live chat and see what we got. I was going to run down the over-unders. Maybe we'll do that, but I hate to see good comments slip by if there are such things here in the chat room. Anthony's here. I see that. Good to see you, Anthony. Auburn Life. A lot of Auburn fans jumping on board here recently. It's Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. Who's on the line?
Oh, yeah. Good morning, and that is Uncle Lou here.
Hey, Uncle Lou, what's going on, man?
Mark Rogers TV, what are you doing to these people? Urban Meyer has a real health condition. Come on, stop it. What is this, the comedy hour?
Oh, boy. I shouldn't say this before I let you continue, Lou, because I probably am not going to like what you're going to say. But I was explaining to the folks the other day that you reached out to me after you saw I was having YouTube problems and just gave me loads of great information and insight and took the time to write this massive email, give me equipment recommendations. Phenomenal. You're first class. Love it. Love your show. Love what you do. It's amazing.
Man, I love yeah. We all have to help each other out.
That's right.
But man, this Urban Meyer.
Okay, Urban Meyer.
Every time the water gets rough, it's a serious health condition. And this guy's been cured more than a Virginia ham.
Was the water that rough at 13-1?
Next year is going to be something serious. We all know Clay Helton can't win nothing. Why did they even hire that guy anyway? Man, hey, is there anybody in college football who's in more over his head than Clay Helton? Well, maybe Willie Taggart. Both those two may be out of a job this year, but we all know Urban Meyer can't go back to the state of Florida. He's barred from there. Already working for Fox Sports, ain't he? Where they're headquartered at? Oh, yeah, California, West Coast. He'll be on TV all this year talking about the meaningless Pac-12 games that nobody watches. He'll be studying up on Southern Cal, too, because I expect him to be hired out there probably sometime around December. But, yeah, miracle cured. It's amazing. Hey, explain to this guy in the comment section calls himself NBA fan. You know, he's not a fan of him. He's one of these guys just follows Ron James around, you know, the type. But anyway, he doesn't understand recruiting, sir. Help him out here. He thinks that if a team signs one player and that player has a rating of 99, then that team has a better recruiting class than a team that signs 20 players with a rating of 98. Because that other team's average rating per player would be 99, and the team that signed 20 players rated a 98, their average player recruiting will only be a 98. He just doesn't understand how recruiting works.
Well, he doesn't understand math either. It's pretty simple.
Yeah, it's a shame. It really is. You know, I find this I find this a good thing to do on my channel too. You might want to look into it. Educate your comment section. Let them know you got some people in there that's drooling into Fruit Loops who probably gonna ruin their keyboard. But hey, listen, I love the show. I'm gonna keep listening, keep doing what you're doing, and have a great morning.
I appreciate it, Lou. Certainly could have used you the other night when I was explaining to folks that Willie Taggart had a deplorable, awful season at Florida State. What Willie Taggart did with top 15 talent at Florida State last year, if you watched the games, it wasn't just that Florida State went 5-7. And I explained this, and I looked at the game scores and the results, and I watched these games against Syracuse, against Virginia Tech. Virginia Tech annihilated Florida State. It was not much of a game. It was 24-3. Willie Taggart and his offense scored 3 points against the Virginia Tech defense that was awful. The worst Virginia Tech team we've seen in close to 30 years, and Willie Taggart scored 3 points against them. They went to Syracuse against recruiting classes that are ranked in the 60s and 70s and lost 30-7. Willie Taggart was awful. His team was unprepared every week last year. Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. Who's on the line?
It's Bash again. I'm back.
All right, Bash is back. Got the dogs under control.
Yeah, I listened to that, and I realized that you actually didn't hear a single thing. I know you said you didn't hear it, but I don't know. I was kind of.
Oh, really? It came across, huh?
What was that?
It came across on the broadcast. You're telling me.
Oh no, I didn't hear it. That's what I'm saying.
Okay.
So even
Yes.
if the dog starts barking again, then
Yeah, you're fine.
Good.
You got to believe me. You're fine. You're good.
All right.
All right. Ohio State.
Back to what I was saying.
Yes. Justin Fields, Ryan Day.
So a lot of people are doubting Ohio State right now just to even make the top 10 in the final part of the season.
Okay.
Or in the final rankings in the college football playoff and make a New Year's Six bowl, maybe. Just throwing that out there, right? People are doubting that because new head coach, new quarterback.
Sure. Awful defense last year. Did it get fixed? Offensive line, four of them have left the program. They've moved on, and it was not a great offensive line last year. So there are offensive line questions. So there are more questions than just we got a new quarterback.
Yeah, I actually expect, though, that the defense is going to be better because, honestly,
they can't be worse.
A lot of technique. I think it was a lot of technique stuff in the secondary, and the linebackers kind of blew a couple of assignments. That defensive front is going to be tremendous, and it might be the best in college football coming back.
Yeah.
Auburn has something to say about it. Alabama does, for sure, but they're going to be up there. And that secondary was just very young, and frankly, the linebacking core was very young, too. I think that defense is going to improve a lot now that I don't think Grinch was a good fit. And we're going to have to see how this entire new staff that Day put together on defense fits. But the main thing is, you know that Ohio State has talent right now. It's still Urban Meyer talent, regardless on whether or not he's the one coaching on the sidelines. And you, just like I am, are very aware of the schedule, aren't you?
Well, the out-of-conference schedule is awful. The in-conference schedule is difficult.
How bad the schedule is.
The out-of-conference schedule is bad for Ohio State. Yes, it's an embarrassment. Yeah, they don't play a Power 5 team in 3 games, but that's only 3 games. The 9 inside the Big Ten is a rather difficult schedule because, of course, they've got to face the Big Ten Eastern Division. Plus, they've got Nebraska and Wisconsin and Northwestern. That is by far the most difficult threesome that anybody has to play from the East looking at the West. So it's not an easy schedule. Yeah. It's an easy out-of-conference schedule.
Yeah, it's not easy, but I think 10-2 would be something that is about what you should expect. And, I mean, when you look at Northwestern, most times you would look at that as a trap game. But, frankly, even though it's in Evanston on a Friday night, Ohio State's coming off a bye that week.
Sure.
So one of those trap games against a West team that Ohio State's getting ridiculed for losing all these games to West teams, average West teams, even though I think Nebraska and Northwestern will be very good.
So Bash, Ohio State's at a place, obviously, at their status in college football, that if they go 10-2, a lot of people are going to say that's a disappointment. So it varies in regards to what does that 10-2 look like. If that 10-2 still includes a win over Michigan that gets them to the Big Ten championship game, they win that, they're 11-2, and even if they miss the playoff, the thought process is either going to be, okay, the Big Ten was a little bit down. Ohio State lost those 2 games, and other teams only lost 1. They didn't belong in the playoff, but they're still really good. They're still one of the top 5 to 10 teams. Okay, or that they got ripped off. Whatever. When you say 10-2, and the evaluation of Ryan Day's first year, it's going to come down to, did they go 10-2 and beat Michigan and get to the Big Ten championship game, or did they go 10-2? 10-1 going to Michigan, lost, and had to sit home and see Jim Harbaugh finally get through. That's going to be the determining factor. It's not going to be necessarily 10-2.
Right. Well, as a Buckeye fan, you're 100% correct. I'm not doubting that. But
I thought I was 100% correct regardless of the subject. Go ahead, Bash. I'm just kidding. Go ahead.
The arrogance. Anyway, but that's not the main point. Let's say they go ahead and beat Michigan, even though if they win the Big Ten or not. What I'm seeing a lot of is predictions about Ohio State finishing 9-3 or worse and finishing outside of the top 10. Now, while I'm not going to say that's impossible, because anything's possible, especially with a new coach and a new quarterback, as they bring up, as talented as that quarterback is, by the way, I still think that 10-2 with the out-of-conference schedule and with the fact that one of their track games against the West team is off of a bye, the fact that they get Michigan State, who might just be the toughest team this upcoming year, because there's a lot of questions surrounding Penn State. There's a lot of questions surrounding Michigan in terms of replacing their defense and their offensive line. I really think that saying 2 losses, and they get Penn State at home too, by the way. I think 2 losses and including a Michigan win in that is probably the average prediction, if not kind of a floor for Ohio State, or closer to a floor, because I think that for Ohio State to lose 2 or 3 games, more than 2 games, let's say 3, they're going to have to play a tough team out of conference. I just don't see them playing 3 non-conference opponents where they can run through all of them. Cincinnati might be a little tough, but run through all of them and then lose 3 games in conference.
So, Bash, who's your argument with right now? Who is your argument with? Your argument is with people that have picked Ohio State to go 9-3.
Yeah.
Okay.
Kinda.
I'm looking at the CBS Sports over and unders right now. Ohio State is at 10.5. So I think they're being given their just due based on the talent that they have by Vegas.
Hey, I didn't even know that. So I guess a lot of people could win some bets, though, if Ohio State goes 7-2, if they think they're going to finish 9-3, 8-4, to be fair, because they picked that under. So I guess you make a point there. I'm just seeing it all over social media, Facebook groups and Instagram and all this, and Twitter, all this stuff on social media, just trashing on Ohio State the last couple days. I'm like, are you not familiar with how talented this team is? Because though, like I said, though anything can happen, we've seen collapses way worse than Ohio State falling to 9-3, 8-4. And I've said this once, and I'll say it again, and then I'll let you go. I'm not saying it's impossible that Ohio State goes 8-4, 9-3. I'm just saying that's a little bit of a reach in terms of a prediction. That's all I'm trying to say here. They're a polarizing team for this reason. You either love them or hate them. I'll see you later.
Thanks, Bash. Appreciate it. Yeah, there's no question that Ohio State's a polarizing team and program for a number of reasons. Just about any program in the country that wins as much as they are and brags about it, they're going to be polarizing. Yeah, we got the over-under at 10.5, and I think that's pretty fair. If somebody held a gun to my head, which I hope doesn't happen anytime soon, and said, what's Ohio State's record going to be this year? And, of course, I'm going to make that prediction at some point. I would have difficulty going between 11-1 and 10-2 for the Buckeyes, but I probably lean 10-2 because I do think that the in-conference schedule is difficult. Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. Who's on the line?
Hey, Mark, it's McGee Sports 4.
Oh, boy. What's going on tonight?
So, Mark, I was doing outstanding until I looked at the CBS over-unders. How in the hell is Maryland a 4.5?
Oh, boy.
Over-under?
Okay.
How
That is a bit rough. That is a bit rough.
If I had $1 billion, I'll be picking you over. I mean, you look at this Maryland schedule. First of all, it's down in Indiana. I don't care what this CBS thing is saying. We're better than Indiana. I don't care this season. We're better than Indiana. That's point number 1. They have them at 6. I'll take Indiana over under at 6 under. I mean,
I would say, to be honest, CBS probably doesn't even know any of the Maryland, anything about Maryland. I hope we get like the Hyundai Sun Bowl, the bowl game that they do the broadcast for. I don't know the conference locks for it on the top of my head, but I hope we get into the Sun Bowl. I hope we get into the Sun Bowl so those knuckleheads in the studio can actually talk about Maryland, because they probably don't know anything. You, Uncle Lou, Pigskin Pete, all you guys will probably do a better job analyzing the Maryland Terps before the Sun Bowl, before those knuckleheads in the studio. That's point number one.
All right, so I'm looking through the article that we're talking about. We're referencing the CBS Sports list of over-unders. So CBS is saying here in the opening paragraph that FanDuel has released win totals for every Power 5, Group of 5 team, etc. So these are coming from FanDuel, apparently. But, man, I got to say, Maryland, we looked at their schedule, a few weeks ago, didn't we? Plus, I released my schedule rankings, and when you're looking at Syracuse and Temple, yeah, I said 6-6. So you're looking at Syracuse and Temple, and then the other two games are give me's or the one other game non-conference is a give me. Rutgers, Indiana. I forget who they play in the other division. I know they've got Minnesota. Yeah, I got to think that they're going to win more than 4.5. Well, I know they're not winning 4.5 games, but yeah, I would certainly play the over on that one.
Yeah, and they've got Rutgers on the list I'm looking at. I just noticed that they didn't even bring up Rutgers. They probably forgot about them. I mean, I just hope that Maryland gets in the Sunday Sun Bowl in El Paso, whatever it is, so those knuckleheads can actually look like they know what they're talking about, even though they don't. As I've been saying, we're going to have the fastest paced offense in the country, and we're going to just put up a lot of points against a lot of teams.
Okay, well, you know what my deal is on Maryland, that I have to kind of calm you down on the Terps. I know you're a little excited, and maybe your overestimation comes through, but 4.5 is a bit rough. I do think it's funny, as you mentioned here, as I look at the CBS list of the Big Ten, they just completely forgot about Rutgers. They've got the other 13. They just didn't even bother with Rutgers. That's funny.
I mean, do they even know Rutgers has a football team? I mean,
most of us have tried to forget it.
I mean, of course, for the SEC, they have teams like South Carolina over under at S6. I mean, South Carolina will be lucky to win 6 games with that schedule.
Yeah, the schedule's rough.
And they have Arkansas at 6, Tennessee at 6.5. They haven't made a bowl game in 2 years. I'm going to be honest with you, Mark. I don't like the SEC Game of the Week broadcast. I really don't. I think it's so much bias towards certain teams in the SEC. And I know this is by FanDuel, but I mean, is FanDuel also an SEC homer site? I mean, all I'm saying is, this list is crap as far as I'm concerned. I think bet online, they have Maryland at over under at 6. I mean, at least that's like legit. But I mean, this is an embarrassing list, Mark. It really is.
Got you fired up. So if there was going to be one team that they were going to screw up just to get fire under you, it would have to be Maryland. I don't have huge issues with the rest of the SEC. I picked Tennessee to go 7-5. That, of course, hang on. That's, of course, my projection in the spring. Not my final prediction, but I had Tennessee at 7-5, 3-5 in the SEC. Arkansas seems a little high at 6. Little high at 6 for Arkansas. Everybody else seems to be right there. Georgia at 11. Wow, they've got to go undefeated. You know, I'm betting Georgia on the under. Not that I'm that confident that I'm going to win money, but I'm almost going to guarantee that I'm not losing money. And they got to go undefeated for me to lose money.
Man, I mean, they have LSU at 9. I'll probably go on the over of LSU at 9. Mississippi State 8.5. I mean, I'll probably go on the under. I just think this list is very biased. Notre Dame at 8.5. That team made the college football playoffs last year. They shouldn't be at 8.5 for the college football playoff team. But
Yeah, and the schedule's not that difficult for Notre Dame this year.
I know, but I mean,
I'm saying it's not. It's not a typical Notre Dame schedule. It's not a typical Notre Dame schedule. Just because most of the teams that they play are not as good as they've been in the past. Just like last year when they played Florida State, Virginia Tech, and USC.
I mean, outside of Georgia and Virginia.
Well, they do have Georgia, and they've picked up like a New Mexico State and then somebody out of the MAC. I rated Notre Dame's schedule, Bowling Green, yeah. I forget what ranking I gave Notre Dame, but it was low. I usually have them in the top 10 somewhere, and I had them around 45.
Yeah, I mean, you said you were going to talk about it, so I looked up myself, and once I saw that, I just got it ruined the day. It really ruined the day.
Why should it ruin your day? You know better. You know the Terps are going to be what, 8-4 this year?
Yes, that's what I have them at, 8-4.
Now I'll take that over under. I'll jump on that one. Maybe we can talk offline. MCD Sports 4.
Okay. Well, we're gonna let you go.
All right,
That's
man.
the only thing I was griping about, really.
Appreciate it.
Thanks for taking my call.
Of course.
Have a nice day.
You too. All right. Let me check one personal item, and then I'm going to look at. Yeah. I will look at the live chat, of course. See what you guys have. 860-325-3687. Talk about whatever you want. I was looking at the over-unders. All right. It's Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. Who's on the line?
Hi, this is Eli.
Eli, what's going on, man?
Not much. I was looking at the Liberty over and under at 5.5, and I think that should easily be an over on them because I'm looking at the schedule and it's really easy to pick up these 6 wins.
Yeah, I don't recall their schedule, but it was the worst or one of the worst ones that I rated, so it was one of the easiest in the country. I grouped it in with the rest of the Power 5, but they went 3-9 last year.
We went 6-6 last year.
Oh, sorry, 6-6 for Liberty. Sorry, I didn't keep track well. I know you've got Auburn and Virginia, right?
No, that was last.
That was last year. I'm thinking of last year. Again, need to brush up on my Liberty Flames knowledge.
Yeah, but I mean, we did with 6-6 with Turner Gill as our head coach, so now we have a much better coach in Hugh Freeze. I'm actually optimistic that we should at least get to 7 or 8 wins.
And let me ask you, why are you a Liberty fan? Are you alum?
Yeah, I am. That's why I pull for Liberty.
Very nice. Are you excited about having FBS status?
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty cool. Even though I kind of miss competing for the FCS playoff, I know that Jerry Paul always really wanted us to be in the FBS, and I think that's pretty cool. I guess we can sort of say we play at the highest level of football, even though we're not in a Power 5 conference.
We've got our guy Texas Savage saying you're going to go 10-2.
10-2. Wow, I thought that was pretty optimistic. I would say, I don't know. I mean, BYU and UVA are probably guaranteed losses since those are on the road.
Yeah, sorry I can't. I did release a schedule ranking and record projection on Liberty, but besides that, my Liberty knowledge a bit scarce.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you the ones that I have the schedule in front of me right now. I'll tell you the ones that we most likely should win. Have 2 STS teams in Hampton and Maine. We play New Mexico. We play New Mexico State twice. I think we beat them both times. We play at UMass and we play at Rutgers. That should be about 7 wins right there.
Yeah, it sounds like you guys are in good shape to possibly get to a bowl game. Could happen.
Yeah, and then I think, and then we play Buffalo at home. And remember, they lost their quarterback. So I think that could be a 50-50 game, but I
Yep.
think that's a winnable game.
One of my favorite
Syracuse-
scheduling quirks, Eli, is that Liberty and New Mexico State, of course, that famed rivalry between New Mexico State and Liberty has to be played twice.
Yeah, well, I think that's because we got it to the FBS and we only had about a year and a half to put our schedule together, and New Mexico State was kicked out of their conference. So we basically were helping each other out since we both needed opponents. But yeah, I think it's kind of cool in a way. I mean, we split last year, but I think we'll be a lot better this year. I think we can actually sweep them this time.
Do you have yourself a mascot? Is it a big flame guy? What are you going for there?
Sparky is our official mascot, but
okay.
yeah, we are the Flames.
Yep. All right. Good stuff on Liberty.
And we also played Lafayette, which actually have that as a loss. That's right after the Syracuse game, but I think that's another 50-50 game. So I feel really I think that, to me, like the over-under, getting the over, that's almost like easy money. I feel like I'm kind of like MCD for sports in a way, how he's super optimistic on Maryland.
No, jump on it.
Although 4.5 even for Maryland, I'll even agree that seems kind of low. I mean, I don't know. I think they win at least 5 games, and I could see them winning 6 games. Depends on how they also do against Syracuse.
All right, Eli. Anything else for us tonight?
Not at this point.
All right. You have a great night.
Thank you.
All right. Let's see. We got stuff flying by here. We've got people picking Minnesota to win the Big Ten West. Shea Landa. Minnesota is going to win the West. They're going to go 10-2. Whoa. Hey. You know, they got to play a full season. That November run was impressive. Took Northwestern to the wire. Really whipped up on Wisconsin and Georgia Tech, and somebody else was in there. Yeah, somebody else decent that they beat late. Anyway, Minnesota, 10-2. No, I don't see it. They do not have the talent in that division to post 10 wins. Minnesota's schedule, really? Where are the 10 wins? Where are the only 2 losses? Minnesota. Yeah. Maybe this is my guy calling right now.
The call will start at the beep.
Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. Who's on the line?
Yo, Mark. It's Deep Barat. How's it going?
It's going well. How are you?
Lovely. So, I noticed that it was a call-in show. I don't want to take a drastic amount of time like our normal conversations over. So to keep it short, I looked at your Texas video recently, and I kind of wanted to hear your rationale for the 9-3. Not that I have anything against it, because I think it's perfectly possible that Texas does go 9-3. But the question that I have in particular is that, is that what you think is like the average, or do you think that 11-1, possibly 12-0 is like the higher end, possibly lower end is like around that 9-3, 8-4 mark? And then I just want to kind of hear where you think the highest probability of losses are.
Okay.
And then, we'll go from there.
I was in the midst of pulling up the Minnesota schedule, but now you have me redirected toward Texas here. So I wanted to see this Minnesota schedule and this 10-2 prediction. All right, let's get the Texas schedule up here. And let me say right out of the gate, could Texas go 12-0? Absolutely. There is nobody on Texas's schedule that they cannot beat. All right? That's number one. Bottom figure for Texas, for me, is 8-4. All right, let's look at the schedule. And I'm going to tell you right out of the gate, I am anticipating they're going to lose to LSU. Now, again, as I like to explain, the way I approach this season and predictions and forecasting of games is to say, yes, when the game arrives, I will have to make a prediction on the game. during the off season, certainly when I make a prediction on the season, I'm looking at games, but I'm generally categorizing games. I'm clumping them together at times to say what is going to happen in this stretch of games. And so if Texas beats LSU, that is not going to shock me in any way. I think they have about a 40% chance of winning that game. I think LSU is a better team. They're not drastically better. And I know that the game's in Austin, but I am expecting LSU to win the game. So there's one loss.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to, like I said, we'll keep it very short this time. But, the Texas LSU comparison, I can understand why you, I would imagine you're 100% neutral. Like you're not a Texas or
yeah,
LSU
I don't care who wins. I'm not going to care until I make a prediction on the game.
Right, absolutely. I'd say the reason that a lot of people, I guess, who are 100% neutral are kind of picking LSU is just because, to be honest with you, LSU has been the more consistent program this decade. So it comes off as this natural tendency, statistical bias, whatever you want to say, that would lean people and the SEC brand to lean that in that direction. Just I'm going to be very short about this. Like Texas, I think can beat LSU, and I'm not just saying that because I'm a huge fan, but
of course they can.
Besides all the right.
Sure, they
I'm
can.
saying it's probably closer to 50-50 in my opinion, and that's just because I do believe that Texas has a better offense, and Sam Ehlinger is going to be a better quarterback than Joe Burrow. I mean, that's probably already proven statistically, but I think that heading into this junior year, I think that this is going to be his breakout year. I mean, he's already the #1 quarterback at Texas historically. Like he's passed Vince Young and Colt McCoy for the touchdown record and the passing record this past year alone. So,
but I think we would agree that Sam Ehlinger's career does not approach either one of those quarterbacks at this point. It's not even close. You're just talking about raw statistics.
Correct.
Okay. Yes. Sam Ehlinger's career does not approach Colt McCoy or Vince Young's. No.
Yet. But at the end of their sophomore years, he was ahead of both of them, and I guess that's why a lot of people have Texas in the top 10 this year.
Okay.
Why Texas is so high in preseason polls is because of Texas' offense being supposedly very elite, led by Ehlinger. The secondary has some of the best safeties. But long story short, I think that this is going to be a very close game either way. And the original spread was actually +9.5 for LSU, but that's dropped to 1.5. So it's actually dropped by 8 this past month alone. Now, I'm not saying that all of a sudden Vegas predicts that Texas is going to beat LSU, but I'm just saying that's an interesting stat that Vegas is significantly less bullish on LSU versus Texas than it was, let's say, a month or two ago. And it may change again. But,
I'm going to guess, Deeperot. I'm going to guess, Deeperot, that not necessarily is Vegas less bullish on LSU, but the betting public jumped on that line. I was going to jump on that line, and I don't look at those kind of things during the off season. But when I saw at the point that LSU was an 8-point favorite, I was ready to jump on line and put money on Texas. So I think the betting public bet that down.
Yeah, I mean that could also be true. I mean,
I don't think Vegas reevaluated the game.
I think to be very honest with you, and I don't know what LSU's final AP rank was, but I believe that both of the programs were very similarly matched in the sense that one has a slightly better offense in Texas, and you can say that LSU has a better defense. I'll admit that. But both programs are kind of in that transitional phase where they have both very solid seasons last year, but they want to transition into being a college football playoff contender. What do you call it? A conference contender, whether it's SEC or Big 12. And so I think it's going to be extremely interesting match to see who is going to have that edge, I guess, in the national outlook after week 2 and what the preconceptions are between the SEC and the Big 12 heading into next year. That week 2 matchup, Texas LSU, will give us a lot of data points. So I think it's going to be a close matchup. Obviously, I'm a Texas fan and alum, so I'm going to root for Texas. But I think it's a lot closer than what a lot of people would anticipate, and it's going to be interesting, man. Only the football field can say who's better, right?
That's right.
That's all I have to say on that.
All right, Deeper Rat.
Perfect.
Appreciate the call.
And yeah, any final thoughts?
My final thoughts are basically my rationale on the early Texas projection. Again, I explain this every video, that it was not a final prediction going into the season. 9-3, 7-2 in the Big 12, lose to Oklahoma, lose and get tripped up somewhere along the line. Iowa State, TCU, wherever that may be. Those would be the 2 likely candidates for me. And there's the prediction.
That's fair. That's fair. But you also said that 11-1 is your higher end, right?
I say 12-0 is the high end.
12-0.
There's nobody on the schedule they can't beat. I'm actually going to have to do some serious thinking and analysis of looking over the Oklahoma personnel versus Texas, because as you mentioned, Texas has a much better defense than Oklahoma, and I think Oklahoma's offense is still going to be one of the best in the country, but it's not going to be prolific. Yeah, they lose the entire offensive line, and as somebody mentioned to me today in the comments, and I don't believe it, that they've got 3 5-stars coming in or whatever, but they lose the continuity and the experience along the offensive line. And Jalen Hurts is not the quarterback. He will be very productive in this offense and probably account for 40 touchdowns, but he's not Kyler Murray nor Baker Mayfield by any stretch. They are losing something at the quarterback position. They are going from a top 3 player in the country. Both of these.
How good do you think Sam Ellinger is?
Let me finish this point. They're going from arguably the best quarterback in the country for the last 4 years, going back to 2015, and certainly one of the top 5 quarterbacks in the nation, to a top 25 quarterback. So still a very good player who's going to thrive in that offense, but they are much more limited, both running and passing with Jalen Hurts. So they're not going to just score at will on teams. Sam Ellinger. Sam Ellinger is one of the 10 or 12 best quarterbacks in the country off the top of my head. I'm not getting out lists and figuring it out, but he's certainly in that range. Maybe better.
That's fair. Do you think he's the best Big 12 quarterback? My favorite next year.
Yes, he's the best quarterback in the Big 12.
Okay.
I'm not thinking of anybody else who's better. Yes, he is the best quarterback in the Big 12.
Yeah.
He's better than Jalen Hurts.
Yeah, it's going to be. I mean, it's going to be interesting if Texas can beat Oklahoma finally. I mean, I think that's what the expectations are for sure.
Your wild card is TCU. All right, Deeper Rat.
Yes, thank you. Bye-bye.
All right, folks. Let's see what we got.
The call will start at the beat.
All right. It seems like things are heating up and things are coming up that people are getting a bit riled up about. So that's a good thing. So the calls are coming in. Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. Who's on the line?
Hey, Mark. How you doing?
Hey, George.
Mark Rogers, the voice of college football.
Absolutely, it is. You recognize that voice. I recognize your voice.
All right. I've got my prediction for the Florida game. I'm saying Florida 38, Miami 24, because I have a lot of respect for them. I don't think we're going to shut them out.
Is that the final prediction? Of course it's not. You're going to have another.
It's opening day, whatever. Dan Mullen's going to have those guys so high. We're going to cream them. We're not LSU. We're not something to be freaked up with. This is Florida. We playing. We owe them when they beat us 8 out of 10 times, and our lifetime record is they have 65, we have 62. So we're going to get even.
65, 62?
Yeah, lifetime. We played like 130 times or something since 1812 or something.
No. I guarantee you, George.
Check
I guarantee you that Georgia or Florida and Miami have not played 137 times.
All right. Well, but still, when you do find the actual number, there's only a 3-game difference.
Okay.
All right. My second question is Texas back?
Okay. I hear this all the time. Is Texas back? Is Michigan back? Whoever. Define being back. What does that mean?
You go to the playoffs at least.
Oh, you got to go to the playoff to be back. I'm going to give Texas about a 30% chance of making the playoff. So they could be back. I will make a prediction at some point very close to the season to let you know if I believe that they're going to make the playoff. I picked them to win the Big 12. So I picked Oklahoma and Texas in the Big 12 championship game last year, and I picked Texas to win, but not to go to the playoff. And they fell a little bit, about 4 minutes short.
It's an interesting question. I have my next question is, who is the head coach at Georgia Tech?
Okay. All right. So nobody saw this because I went off on our Voice of College Football community on Patreon with very few people as I was reading through the comments. So there is a huge difference between not knowing something and slipping up.
And reading someone else's comment, right?
Yes, I clearly said Jeff Jenkins. So I'm going to, for any real hardcore baseball fans out there, I'm going to remind them that there was a left fielder for the Milwaukee Brewers in the early 2000s, Jeff Jenkins, very good player, left-handed hitter. That must have been planted back there in my skull somewhere in the memory banks, and it just spit out Jeff Jenkins. Yes, I know who Jeff Collins is, know where he coached, I know his coaching history, yes, I know who Jeff Collins is.
Yeah, I know you do. I watched some of your videos today, and I sort of got it for the first time. I thought it was so smooth. You knew every statistic, everything.
For the first time.
Damn.
For the first time, I was smooth.
Yes. Up until now, it was just entertainment, and now I'm like, damn, he actually knows, man. I never heard nobody talk numbers like that. Anyway, Guess what? This is true. I just watched 2 or 3 videos from other football channels from the past. Just having fun, you know?
Of course.
And I saw this, and I clicked on it. I thought I was watching a show from 2 years ago, and then I realized this is a freaking live feed. We're on live. It
Astounding.
took me 5 minutes before I knew this was a live show. I was so happy.
George, we're just glad you're with us.
All right, here's my next thing. For my birthday, I didn't ask for anything. I had a birthday 2 days ago. I turned 59, right?
Yeah, we talked about that. Mm-hmm.
Here's what I want. I know. I didn't know what I wanted for my birthday, but here's what I want. You have 10,000 viewers. I want everybody to send you $5 for my birthday. Wouldn't that be great? And then you can just have a little slush fund in case you need a microphone or something, or to buy a bigger helmet or whatever. I think it's perfect the way it is.
So George, Uncle Lou is going to do you much better than that. He's going to double you up on that. He's doubling down on your charge to everyone.
He made it 10?
He just threw out $10. Just threw out $10.
Oh my God! Make it 10. That's $100,000.
So I of course have to read his comment, because he threw me $10, and I appreciate that, Uncle Lou. Thank you so much.
Read the comment.
And you know what? I haven't given Uncle Lou a proper introduction to Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football, even though he's been on as a guest, but not in the chat room.
I don't think you have yet either. Time.
So this is how it goes. This is the tradition.
Right.
Welcome to Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. And of course, I know that Uncle Lou is a Georgia fan. It's all over the place, and that's his team. And I know that he's been somewhat watching, as I have been watching him for, I don't know, about a year, something like that. But I appreciate Uncle Lou making fun of Ohio State. I've got to read his comment. Ohio State winless against Georgia. Laughing his ass off. Ha 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 ha. I think I got them all in.
That's incredible, isn't it? Isn't that an incredible statistic?
Do you know how many times they played?
I have no idea.
I'm almost positive it is 1 time. They played in the 1992.
That's an incredible statistic
So, George, expect to be wowed here because, again, I'm going to go back into the vault here upstairs. The 1992 Citrus Bowl, Garrison Hurst, Eric Zaire, 21-14 Georgia. Very close game. Ohio State's driving late. They fumble about the 25-yard line. End of the game.
Well, leave it up to Uncle Lou to find some archaic stack like that and bring it up.
No. Okay. Yes, he did, and I did. Yes, I filled in the blanks. But yes, he was
ready to fill the void in the shit talk in the chat section, and he did. After he said that, I typed in a moment of silence for Ohio State, please.
I actually, George, here have a comment from somebody, and this is somebody that watches on a regular basis, and I would love to get some insight into this comment. It says, this is from Nona Baez. Mr. Mark Rogers doesn't watch football. Okay.
They say that about Uncle Lou, too. That means you're getting there. You've arrived.
Doesn't watch football. Okay. I see sometimes these new phrases kind of throw me. I've got to catch up with it.
For that one.
Okay. All right. I did.
You never watched the football game. You've arrived.
I did not know that.
You have opposition out there. People just don't like you just because you didn't say something nice about their team. I read a comment today from a guy from a university I never heard of, and he yelled at you for not giving his team fair coverage. You know, I saw that. He's like, yeah, you're breaking down the water boys for Georgia and LSU, but I never heard about Towson State, you know, or something, you know.
Yes, we're a little light on our Towson State coverage.
But it wasn't Towson State. I just don't want to name any names.
Yeah, I don't know who it was. All right, George. How is your number 58 treating you?
Oh, 59.
59. How's your 59th year treating you?
Well, it's going really good. Usually when you get to my birthday, there's less than 2 months left to the opening day of college football. So I'm right where I want to be.
That's it.
I can't believe we actually have a good game on week 0. This is too good to be true.
I am going to take this next call, but I want to say before this, I just can't imagine the fever pitch between the Florida and Miami fans the week before and the night, and then when it's finally played, I am just gonna sit back and savor the comments back and forth because the loser and those losing fans, most of them are going to run away, and we're going to not hear from them for a while.
I will come back and say congratulations like a man if they beat us, and if they don't, I won't be too mean if we do win either. You know, I mean, it's going to hurt somebody bad.
I know you've been really for talking all the crap that you do, George. You've been very gracious when it comes to wins and losses. Very gracious. All right, I've got to
feel sorry for the loser, no matter who it is.
I am taking this call before it drops off on me. George, thank you so much for the call.
Later, bye.
All right, Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. Who's on the line? That's Georgia 1, Ohio State nothing all time. All right. Who do we have on the line?
Hey, Marcus. Hey, Marcus DeAndre. How you doing tonight?
I'm doing just fine. How are you? It's good to hear from you.
Good. Yes, sir. Always, man. I love the show. You know I do. Yes, sir.
What's on your mind?
I think I was watching the show last week, and one of the people in the section asked, why does Alabama always play neutral site games? And I'm not sure of your answer, but I thought you said you really wasn't sure. But I think it got something to do with recruiting, because I think with recruiting, I think we can play neutral site games. You don't have to.
You don't have to.
I'm sorry. It doesn't count as a way as a recruiting visit or something like that.
Oh, bringing recruits to the game, and they can show up at the game.
Yeah.
I'll have to look into that, and certainly if anybody knows more about that than I do, I'm not a big recruiting guy. Certainly fill me in on that, but I thought it had more to do with money than anything, and not having to. Most large schools are obviously, if Alabama is interested in playing whomever, Wisconsin, like they did a few years ago, If Alabama doesn't want to tie up its schedule and doesn't want to make the trip, they basically are obligated to tie up 2 dates with anyone like that because they would have to play home and home. Whereas if they just say, let's play a neutral site, then that's just the 1 game.
Well, and then what you think about the UConn talk? They saying because UConn is maybe not having a football team in a couple of years, or them get with their football program. This might open up the door in 21 and 22 for Clemson and Georgia to play more.
It's easier to win in basketball.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, it's hard to recruit up there at UConn. I think they're a very good school, and I know they went to the Orange Bowl, like, about 7 years ago?
The Fiesta Bowl against Oklahoma. Yep. That was for winning the Big East, which was a joke that they even had an automatic entry into the BCS Bowl games because the Big East was not a good conference. But West Virginia was the only one that ever showed up out of the Big East and represented against big teams. The rest of them got blown out. The rest of them, like Pitt, showed up one year after winning the Big East. And if you can turn me down in the background, DeAndre, because it's bleeding through and causing an echo. But
okay, hold on. Let me see. What can I do about it? I don't know if that worked. Did that work?
Yeah, there you go. So, yeah, there's 100 examples, but Pitt comes to mind in 2004 against Urban Meyer in Utah. Utah, of all teams, blew them out 35-7, and they were the Big East champions playing in the Fiesta Bowl. So that happened a number of times, and UConn did as well. They had to go play Oklahoma, and they lost, 48-17.
Right. Yeah. Well, I was just thinking about that. They said that I might open up the door for Clemson and Georgia to play, which I don't think it's going to happen because Clemson got Notre Dame that year. That means they would have to play Notre Dame, Georgia, and South Carolina. No matter how much as football lovers would love to see it, but I don't think that's going to happen. Clemson probably will pick up somebody that want a paycheck.
Georgia's got some ridiculous non-conference schedules coming up here. I've got to credit Georgia. They double up on off the top of my head, I don't remember it, but it's like Notre Dame and Clemson and Texas maybe one year. There's about 3 years here in the next 10 to 12 years where Georgia plays 2 like brands, like big time elite programs, 2 of them. Plus they play Georgia Tech.
Right. Well, I think I was listening to another talk show, and he does more recruiting than you do, and he was talking about Tennessee and South Carolina need to capitalize on Clemson and Georgia not being able to get all these players, and also Clemson being more recruiting nationally, like they get all players out of they're getting players out of California and a couple other places. And North Carolina and South Carolina has an equal amount of players as Atlanta does. Like Atlanta has, that suburb area of Atlanta has a lot of players, but I guess because the population size, that's equal to what North Carolina and South Carolina puts out together. I know South Carolina is one of the smallest states, but he was just saying that Tennessee and South Carolina needs to capitalize on that. But I keep trying to tell people, Matt Brown, and I'm not going to say that, he did a great job recruiting at Carolina. Carolina is a brand school. Even if people don't like to realize, I know in football, people say, nah, they're not. But it's still Michael Jordan's school. I mean, people still establish that Michael Jordan sells shoes that he went to Carolina. So Carolina does have some type of cachet with it. I mean, with all the great basketball players, people say, well, I don't got nothing to do with football. It's just because that name is out there. And you got somebody like Matt Brown who's won a national championship and can recruit. But he's just a figurehead. The offensive coordinator and defensive coordinator are the ones who's going to get all the attack. I don't know what happened with Larry Fedora at Carolina. I thought he was pretty good. Rodney Hood, who rushed for like 450 yards in a playoff game.
Elijah Hood.
He was pretty good. Yeah, he was really good. I don't know why he had such trouble. I mean, he got Mitsubishi, I think, was the second pick overall in the draft, the first quarterback taken. So, I mean, it's not like the guy didn't have talent. I don't know if the defenses never got it together, but, I mean, I just think Carolina, people are slipping on Carolina and their brand name. And with the Michael Jordan backing them, I just don't think people realize how good Carolina's going to be in the next few years. And I think people are like, no, they're not. They're a basketball school.
Well, if you look,
but they still. Go ahead, Mark.
If you look at the recruiting rankings, you'll see that Clemson, Florida State, Miami are the only 3 schools in the ACC that have out-recruited North Carolina. And actually, when Mac Brown was there for the first time, 2 schools that nobody, for the most part, would guess were in the top 10 to 15 in the nation in producing NFL players were North Carolina and Purdue. During, the late 90s into the 2000s up until about 10 years ago. And North Carolina has had recruiting classes in the mid-20s to mid-30s, much better than Pitt and Georgia Tech and Duke and all the teams that play around them in the Coastal Division, Virginia. But for whatever reason, and I'm not locked in on North Carolina football, I haven't watched them much in the last few years because obviously I'm not watching 3 and 9 teams play football when everybody else is playing big games. But I know they've the 1 year, 2 years ago, the injuries that they suffered were far beyond anybody in the country. So I don't know if that's a strength and conditioning issue or just bad luck that particular year, but they just got sliced and diced by injuries 2 years ago.
Yeah, if you go back to that South Carolina game where they played them in Charlotte, I think the final score was 17-13. And living here in North Carolina, you see the games quite frequently. And they weren't that bad. Marquise Williams just threw like 4 interceptions in the end zone, if you remember that game.
Oh, I remember it.
Yeah, and I think Dabo Samuel, I think that's his name, the receiver from South Carolina, I think he returned like a punt for a touchdown or a kick for a touchdown. And then he put them in good field position. That's what caused Carolina to lose that game. Carolina, I mean, I don't think they would have came back and beat Clemson. Everybody said, well, that onside kick should have came to that, the offsides,
Yeah, you're talking about Ryan Switzer, who's now with the Dallas Cowboys. And yeah, that North Carolina is with the Steelers?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, he got traded to Cowboys and the Raiders. Now he's with the Steelers.
Yeah, that North Carolina team, what was that, 2015, that played Clemson in the ACC championship game, was a decent game. Yep. Yeah, it looked like Fedora had it rolling. And his recruiting didn't drop off in regards to the rankings. So it just came unraveled on him. And I think Mac Brown is going to do a decent job at North Carolina. And certainly the division's up for grabs. Miami's got the best talent, but they certainly don't take advantage of that.
And I like UVA. And everybody keeps saying they don't have much talent as Miami. There's a lot of teams that have more talent than a lot of teams, but maybe they just don't play well together or whatever. Everybody keeps saying Manning's going to do this, Manning's going to do that. But UVA's got a good quarterback. They got a very good defense. And I'm not going to say I know everything about UVA outside of Perkins and their defense, but I'm sure they got some offensive talent, and he's going to be better in the second year. I don't know how tall he is, but somebody said he's a pretty big guy.
You're talking about Bryce Perkins.
Yeah, Ray Perkins.
Yeah.
He's a great athlete. So I'm going to see what I'm going to be keeping an eye out for UVA this year, and I still think they're going to win it. Matter of fact, I'll be at the UVA Pitt game because my cousin plays runs track at Pitt, and I'm a big Pittsburgh Steelers fan, and she's been begging me to come out there. Yeah, she said that's one of the reasons why she went to Pittsburgh, because I always was talking about how much I love the Steelers when she was a kid. So she's like, you got to come up here at least one time before I graduate. And she graduates next year. And so I told her I'll be up there for that game on I think it's August 30th. So I'll be at that game. I know it's going to be boring. Neither one of them can score, but I'll be at that particular game. But
it's going to be an important game. It's going to be an important game. That game decided the division last year.
Right. I forgot how UVA lost that game. Didn't they lose like by 2 points or something?
Yeah, they played at home. You're talking about the Pitt Virginia game last year, right? They played the first week of November,
right.
And it was for the division lead. And yeah, it was a very close game. And Pitt outplayed them in the last 10 minutes or so.
Right. So but I just get wait. I enjoy the football season, man. I love donating to you.
Well, yeah, I was going to mention that, DeAndre. I appreciate so much you donating, and I had sent you an email, and at some point here soon, we're going to have to catch up real quick. I just had a few things to ask you, and yeah, when you bring up all these teams, you're making me think I need to get off this call-in show, and what I need to be doing in addition to I'm going to show. I'm working on some extra lighting, and that's actually a new mic and so forth. I'm showing the people what I've got here. But anyway, I need to start studying up so I can do some season previews on these teams. That's what I need to do.
Yeah, I mean, you and I'm not gonna mention other people's names, show, but
go right ahead.
Yeah, because you, Lou, Bobby, and well, Bobby doesn't do much of previous shows. He's just funny. Pigskin Pete, Top Billing. Top Billing, I don't know if you ever had a chance to work with him.
I don't know who that is.
Phenomenal work.
Yeah?
If you ever get a chance to catch him, and I hate throwing names out there because I don't want to take away from your audience, but he does more of a film breakdown. He does excellent. He said he used to write for Athens paper at UGA and play football. He's a good guy. I donate to him a lot, and I donate to a lot of them. Because I know y'all work really hard, Lonzo. I know we go back and forth at times. I just joke with her. He gets mad about it. But, a lot of the guys that do my...
I'm just chuckling because, yeah, Alonzo.
Yeah, I donate to a lot of y'all because y'all do great work, and y'all for the common people. You can't talk to football, Feinbaum, and those other people because they're the center of the show. They like to say outrageous things, and they're not really talking about a whole lot of football. I can't stand listening to the dude's show. I mean, I stopped listening to him about 2 years ago, but every time I turn on football season, you got to see Paul Feinbaum, and he's one of those people that that's why I think I have a dislike for the SEC. It's because of people like Paul Feinbaum. And like I tell everybody, I never disrespect Alabama football because Alabama, I know Clemson beat them 2 out of the last 3 years, but Alabama is truly king of college football, and they're going to be there for a long time to come. And that's why I don't sit around and talk junk about them. There's a lot of SEC. Auburn, you won't never hear me say nothing negative about, or Tennessee. But, other ones I might throw a little jab at. But I can't wait for college football, and I hope your show keep growing and people realize the great work y'all do in a time that it takes to do the great work with the statistics and stats and, dealing with people like me who might be calling in a hurry and like, blah, blah, blah. Well, what did you mean by that? And I got to go, so I know sometimes you be like, what did he take? And I be like, oh, man, I didn't mean to say that. Then I had to call in and explain what I meant. So I'm very grateful. I don't know about these other people, but you do a great job. I know I hear Georgia there all the time, and Georgia's a great guy. I love listening to talk. He's on all the channels like I am. Just listen to shows. And some of my stuff, I don't even check it out because I like to bet.
And
I weird. Top Billing's the one that told me to put a lot of money on Clemson to beat Alabama. He told me every reason why. And y'all do such great jobs, man, and y'all give us information that you're not going to get on ESPN and these other channels because they're not very insightful to me. They're so big they don't care about talking. If it ain't Alabama or Ohio State or a couple other teams, they're not really talking about you. I think I heard you talk about Oregon State football a couple weeks ago.
Heck yeah.
Talking about Oregon State football. as Oregon State football. I mean, and that's just amazing. You know, like Minnesota. And Bart, before I let you go,
Yes.
why in the 50s? Why was Minnesota so good at football?
That's
I mean,
a great question.
An industrial town like Columbia was, or like Michigan, or you know, there wasn't a national brand like Notre Dame was, or cause Notre Dame being Catholics, you know, there was a lot of poor people at that time, so it was able to help people get jobs. Hey, you go to Notre Dame, we'll get you a job. It wasn't an oil town, so why was Minnesota so good in the 50s in football? It's just a question I had out of curiosity.
I can't answer that question. I may Google that. I may try to find out why. Yeah, Minnesota was a national power, won its last national championship in 1960. Yes, and then it just disappeared after that. That's a great question.
That, I know with Michigan State, the Coach Bryant was friends with the Michigan State coach, and he used to send black players up there to him. A lot of the black players that he couldn't recruit, he used to say, "Once you go to Michigan State."
Was that George Perlis or Duffy Dowdy?
I can't remember which one, but I know he was friends with him, man. He sent a lot of the players, black players from the South up there to him to play Michigan State. So yeah, I think Michigan State. I think in the 60s, I think 68 was Ohio State.
Yes.
One of their was their championship, but I think Michigan State was very good at that time, and that's one of the reasons why. But I would just wonder why Minnesota, because there's nothing there. I can understand Ohio because Columbus, Cleveland, and I can understand Michigan because of Detroit and the background of Michigan State. I would just wonder why Minnesota was a power at that time. Because I think outside of Yale, Harvard, Alabama, and Michigan, I think they got, what, the 5th most national titles out of everybody?
Yes. Yes. Sure. They were right there. They were right there. DeAndre, before I let you go, I want to capitalize on something that you said a few minutes ago, just concerning your appreciation for what we do and your appreciation for what Uncle Lou does and Pigskin Pete and some other ones. You mentioned this Top Billing. I don't know anything about them. But anyway, in regards to your contributions and you helping us out. And Justin Firm has just followed in here. So I just want to do some math for some people out there. And certainly the likes, the comments, the shares, the subscribers, and boosting those numbers help us considerably. But just in the last week, DeAndre, since I do a Florida State, Miami, and Ohio State live shows on Wednesday night, I've had people ask me, why don't you do an LSU live? Why don't you do a Clemson live? Why don't you do a Michigan live? Why don't you do a Florida live? It's like every 2 days, somebody's asking me to do another. Well, if I was doing this all the time, I would do more content. I'd be on here so much, people would get sick of me analyzing college football. But I'm at another job for 50 hours a week. So if people would just take your lead, I put about 50 hours a week into this and another 50 hours there. So if people would take your lead, nobody's missing a buck or $2. And I see $1.99 seems to be your deal. And I love that. I love that you're thinking, you know, you don't need to do that. I appreciate you just getting on here and supporting me and liking the videos and watching the videos and talking it up. But you get on here and you pay back. You appreciate the content, and you're not necessarily, and I don't want to make this comment flippantly because I don't know people's financial situations, but you're generally not going to miss $1 or $2. But if everybody did that, then what that would add to me, to what I could do, would just be like nobody would miss their $1 or $2. But what that would mean for me and to what I could do is just mind blowing. So I thank you for taking the lead.
I tell everybody that I do $2 because $1.99. The only reason why I do that because I make sure I have enough to spread around to everybody that's out there. I'm trying to get into the Patreon, but I think it was $5, and I don't know what happened when I tried to log in. But it will work for me because I try to support you that way too. But
so
we'll and I agree with you.
We'll get that cleared up offline, DeAndre.
Yeah, and yeah, I've been working on it, and but yeah, they should. Even if it's just $1. I mean, like I said, I donate to about 12 people, and I donate every day. Like every time I see you have a live show or a time I can donate, if I don't call in, I be like, hey, here's $2, you know. And it might not, and I hate to say this, but I'll be honest with you, I don't want to hear about Florida State, Miami, Ohio State football, but I donate because, you know, it's you, and I know that you're a good dude, so I know it's important what you do, because I'm sure everybody's sitting around bored like I am right now, like, I wish I could talk about college football. You know, and this is 24/7. I think it's we got him on the show sometime. Miami Live. I can't remember the name. Black guy with glasses.
Cam Underwood.
I mean, yeah, Trey Underwood. So you know, I try to give all of y'all some money when I get a chance. I even give that the guy from Alabama a talk. He said Clemson cheated, and I still give him money. I mean, I know it's time out the day, time for spending with your family, but it's not that. What I make and what I spend today is part of my enjoyment. You know, it's not it's part of my enjoyment. College football. I love college football, man. I'm just grateful we have stuff like this where we can talk and explore ideas without calling people names. I hate when I get on your show and I see people talk about politics. I'm like, man, we did talk about college football.
Oh my goodness,
I want to be in the real world. I'll go out there and listen to CNN or something like that. But, you know, let's talk about football because we all love it at the end of the day.
Absolutely. And as you see in the comments, DeAndre, not in the live chat here, but in the comments, you know, people complaining that I don't cover this and why don't I hit that? I am producing like 150 videos in a month. So I'm getting to as much as I possibly can. So I appreciate the contribution. I'm going to note a few people that you have encouraged to contribute right here as well. And the last thing I want to do is be on here and not knowing people's financial situations, making those kind of comments. But I'm just pointing out that I could do so much more and will do more, but I'm doing the best I can right now. And we'll just continue to get it done. So, DeAndre, I appreciate it so much. Thank you so much.
All right, Mark. Take care, man.
You have a great weekend. So, yeah, thank you, everyone. It's just, I appreciate it. I appreciate it because I know that I just know from living and budgeting and doing all the things that you need to do with your money and your time. And so, yes, you can give back. And some people will comment from time to time, hey, can't we just support you in other ways? Absolutely. Absolutely. I appreciate every like I get, every comment, every dislike I get. Well, maybe not. The likes, the comments, share the video, subscribe, do all those things. Yeah, maybe we'll circle back at some point and I'll do another live stream as I did about a year ago and explain here. This is my vision. This is what I'd like to do. This is what I like to do full time. And that's a big leap, as you can imagine. So let me point out some people right here. Bash, we hear from him on a regular basis. He calls in, provides his insight, knowledge. And so it's about you. Yes, I'm calling myself the voice of college football. Where did that start? One of you, and I wish I knew, I should have kept track of this. One of you a year ago wrote me a comment and said, Mark, I need you to, they were asking a question or making a comment about something that I had commented on. And they just said kind of comma, as the voice of college football, blah, blah, blah. And they just kind of continued. And it wasn't like you're the voice of college football statement. They were just kind of like, as a matter of factly, as the voice of college football, what do you think about blah, blah, blah? And I thought, ooh, yeah, I like that. So I grabbed it. And if you're out there, now 50 people are going to take credit for it. But if you're out there and you're the one who made that comment, because it's buried like 40,000 comments deep, I would never be able to find it. Thank you, because you inspired me to say, that's it right there. Voice of college football, but we are the voice of college football. You've got your voice. It's in the live chat. It's in the call-in shows. It's in the comments. It's all over the place. You've got your voice, the people that I bring on, the guests. I had 107 guests I brought on last year alone, and then many more that have been added this year. They have a voice. I've got a voice, the voice of college football. That's where it comes from. So, yes, I'm going to tag it as my title, but it's all of us as well. Bash, thank you so much. Phenomenal. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I'm right here. Clemson is the only team I see going undefeated through the season. Yes, Bama will lose to Texas A&M. Ohio State, one loss will be to Nebraska. LSU, a two-loss team, will get to the playoff. Bash goes with Clemson undefeated, Bama in the playoff with one loss, Ohio State, the Big Ten champion, with one loss in the playoff, and LSU as the next and final playoff team, the first two-loss team as a non-conference champion. Auburn would have done it 2 years ago, but lost to Georgia, of course, in the SEC championship game. So Auburn would have made it as a two-loss conference champion, but Bash, unprecedented here. LSU in the playoff, two-loss LSU. Ironic that it would be LSU. Of course, they won a national championship in the BCS title game over Ohio State in 2007 as a two-loss team that had the distinction of being not just a two-loss national champion, BCS champion, but also having lost both of those games in overtime. So they never lost a game in regulation. I believe they lost that year to Arkansas in a great game with Felix Jones and Darren McFadden running wild, like a 50-48 game. Then they lost to they lost to Kentucky, I believe, in 2007. So Bash, thank you for the support. It means a ton. And I think you guys also notice that it's not like I disregard anybody who has not contributed financially. I still treat everybody the same. Love all your comments. Dive in on it. The whole deal. John Fields, go Canes, beat UF. John Shields. Have I ever seen your handle on any comment? John Shields. I think this warrants a... Welcome to Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. John, thank you so much for contributing. Go Canes. You're obviously a Miami fan and have been brought to the station. This is the station, this channel, this platform, this community, as we like to say. So thank you so much for your contribution. Bash, Justin Firm, thank you so much. Justin, of course, you are on the Voice of College Football community as well. So, Justin, you can let people know in the live chat what we deliver there, and it's going to get better, more consistent. But today, Justin, you may have seen that I delivered a viewer comments reacts. That was the sixth one I've done. Liberty City Boya won. I'll start. Great job. Who's next? So look at Liberty, what you started. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. I do a poor job of explaining clearly, letting you know how much I appreciate that because, yeah, it's just great. You can get on here and participate and just watch and do all those other things and not dig in and provide anything. So I greatly, greatly appreciate it. Again, Justin, thank you so much. You guys are amazing. You guys are amazing. This makes me want to go and dig in all night. As many of you have noticed, sometimes this stuff comes out at 3, 4 o'clock in the morning that I'm working on, and it makes me want to go online and start from the top, Alabama, Clemson, wherever, and start analyzing and breaking it down so I can deliver some preseason previews. And I'll prioritize all the big teams, and then I'll hopefully, I know that I'm running out of time because SEC Media Days are in like 3 weeks. And I've been going nuts, as you guys can see, on position previews. I've provided how many position previews? Oklahoma, Texas, TCU, West Virginia, Alabama, Auburn, Florida, Kentucky, Georgia, Mississippi State, Ole Miss, Clemson, Miami, Pitt, Ohio State, Michigan, Penn State. We're going to have Nebraska on this week. Notre Dame is going to be on soon. Boston College on soon. Talking Alabama football tomorrow. SEC fans, we will have your top 5 SEC quarterbacks, running backs, and wide receivers coming out in the next few days. We have just released the ACC top 5 quarterbacks, and the running backs are coming out very soon. So all that's coming out very, very soon. Florida, we did position breakdowns, the offense and the defense at Florida, USC, UCLA, Washington, Arizona State. We just knocked out in the last few days. So tons of position previews. Good to know that Uncle Lou's not laughing. All right, so I have clearly lost count of trying to keep track of the live chat, and you guys know that I can't necessarily do that. So before I came on here, I was in the Voice of College Football community, and for those of you who scratch your heads and think, he keeps making this comment, the Voice of College Football community, what is that? Okay, the link is below in the description section. Follow that. And what I deliver there is one exclusive live stream each and every week in which I respond to viewer comments. So the viewer comments that you see here on YouTube, I respond to those. And how do I respond? You can imagine. Straightforward, giving accolades and credit and recognition for the smart, on-point, factual, substantial, well-researched college football fan. And then being a little sarcastic at times to those of you who are a bit less logical, positioned, and understand what you're talking about. So you get the gamut from me on my reaction to college football comments here on YouTube. So that's over there, and also the exclusive live stream that I provide each and every week, where this is how I envision it. So the first two have just been, we had Deep Rod on, and we also had Brent Beard, who's a radio personality, but that's not the reason he got the chance to do this. It's because he is a part of the Voice of College Football community. We brought him on, but I would rather have like 3 or 4 of you on at the same time, and we have a forum, much like we do on a Wednesday night with our Florida State, Miami, and Ohio State live talk, and I have 3 or 4 of you on at the same time, and we just kick it around. We talk about whatever you want to talk about, not politics. College football. Bring you on, and when we have a big community, then you guys can rotate in and out, and we'll talk college football. I would love to do that. This is going to be the last call of the night, whomever this is.
Press 1 the call will start.
All righty. It's Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. Who's on the line?
That's the Beast.
The Beast. How's it going?
It's going good, man. Going good.
You were waiting on your UAB preview.
Well, yeah, and just want to give you an update about our stadium.
Okay.
It'll be ready for the 2021 season.
Who knows what we're all going to be doing in 2021? My goodness. 2021. So it's obviously going to be a big, huge upgrade. So you're looking forward to that. How many people are going to are going to be seated at this new stadium?
45,000, and they'll have an extra 10,000 seats.
Nice. With all the fancy luxuries and so forth?
Yes. They're talking about trying to build like a dragon sculpture that shoots flames out. So that'll be pretty cool if they get that worked.
Cool. Good stuff. We're excited for you.
So do you think UAB wins 10 games?
Does UAB win 10 games? Okay, so they've got their Conference USA schedule. So you're going to have to fill me in unless you want me to look this up. I can look it up right now because I wanted to.
I can tell you their non-conference schedule.
Okay, I know they play Tennessee.
They play Alabama State first game of the season. That's a Thursday night game. That's a win. Then they got to go to Akron. And then they got to play South Alabama at home. And then I think they're off. And then their conference schedule starts.
All right, UAB. Hopefully we're not going to lose too many viewers looking at the UAB schedule. But you are a faithful viewer, and I enjoy these conversations, getting my my take on UAB football. All right. Alabama State win at Akron. The Zips were decent 2 years ago. They were pretty awful last year. That's a win. South Alabama after the bye week. South Alabama now, they've hit some hard times the last few years. They were pretty good there for about 5 years under Joey Jones, but that should be a win. Then you got to go to Western Kentucky. How do you feel about that game?
Well, we lost 33 starters, but we had 33 seniors, and we had like 28 juniors, and we're getting. We got a majority of guys coming back. I mean, we got Spencer and Tyler, and we got a bunch of good receiving core. So we'll just have to see how it plays out.
Yeah, the Western Kentucky game is going to be tricky. Now, the 3 weeks after that, you're playing 3 of the worst teams in the country. Rice certainly was last year. Texas San Antonio looked like they had something going. They had a good program, up-and-coming program about 3 to 5 years ago, but they were awful last year. They were one of the very worst teams in the country. And Old Dominion inexplicably beat Virginia Tech by 2 touchdowns. But other than that, I think they went 3-9, 4-8. So you should be in great shape at that point. You might be undefeated.
I was seeing where SB Nation ranked us to go 7-5.
7-5.
Yeah, that's kind of a low blow. I mean, 7-5. Come on.
All right, this is what I'm thinking. You lose to Tennessee. I know you don't like to hear that, but I'm going to give you about a 25 to 30% chance of winning at Tennessee. Their offense was awful last year, but should be better this year. The Southern Miss game is going to be very difficult on the road. And, of course, Louisiana Tech, and North Texas. So you've got a backloaded schedule. Your last 5 games outside of UTEP, who's awful, those other 4 games are difficult. So let's say you split those. So, yeah, 9-3, 10-2.
That's what I was going to go with. I say we get another conference championship this year.
Okay. Very good.
I do have a friend that plays for good. He's a wide receiver. He's pretty good.
Okay. Very nice. I know you love your Blazers.
Yeah. Too bad I can't suit up. So are you going to do a prediction?
Oh, there is so much I need to do to get caught up here. Yes, I need to start doing season previews. There's a lot I need to get to. Absolutely. So I got to finish these schedule rankings. I'm up to about number 20. I got to knock those out very quick, and then I got to start hammering out some season previews. Okay. Yes, absolutely.
Do you think UAB is the best Group of 5 team?
No, I do not. Now, of course, you're talking to somebody who knows the teams pretty well, but my knowledge is all based on last season. So I've not done any research on what teams have lost or gained, but I cannot, I'm sorry, Beast. I can't rate you with UCF, Boise State, Fresno State, maybe Utah State. Certainly those first 3, they were the class of the Group of 5 last year. Maybe Appalachian State. So you're in the top 5 or 6.
I can agree with that.
All right, Beast. We appreciate the call.
All right.
Go Blazers, and I will get to that at some point here soon. But I appreciate the support, man.
You.
Have a good one.
Have a good one.
All right, final call of the night. I'm going to pack it in. I know it's only 11:19, and for me, that's like, the middle of the day. But there's much to do. Man, I got UAB previews to crank out. You kidding me? All right. Also want to let you know that taking up some of my time before I started here. So we do some partnership work with SD1 Sports, and they asked me to do a Texas A&M and a Tennessee video. So you can also catch me over at SD1 Sports if you want to help support what Chris is doing over there, and also understand that because of our agreement, it helps me as well. Some of the previews that you see on SD1 Sports SEC in particular, you're going to see my Florida running backs preview and LSU running backs preview and on and on and on. So that comes from me as well. Bash, thank you so much. You're amazing. Thank you so much. Virginia won in lacrosse and basketball. Maybe they win in football. What do you think about that, Mark? I think we're looking at 8-4 for the Cavaliers this year. That's what I think. No, not quite there. Maybe they play Clemson in the ACC championship game. And man, I would love to if somebody said right now, and this is not a Pigskin Pete, DeAndre, you guys don't take this the wrong way, but this is coming from Mr. Neutral here. Can you imagine if somebody would come down and not tell us who won the ACC, but said Clemson is not winning the ACC this year? That is like, besides the awful playoff system and the ridiculous scheduling that sucks so bad that I can easily fix, the other bad thing about college football is that here we go into the season, and who are we looking at? Ohio State and Michigan in the Big Ten, and maybe a little consideration given to a few other teams, but really not. Ohio State and Michigan. ACC, it's Clemson. We're done. SEC, Alabama, Georgia. Maybe Florida gets a little, LSU, maybe a little consideration. And we heard somebody here tonight say Texas A&M. I think that was Bash. It's all Oklahoma, Texas in the Big 12, and then the Pac-12 nobody cares about. But if anybody's going to win, it's going to be Washington or Oregon. A lot of people like Oregon, and I do as well. And we're done. So, man, I just hate to see us go into a season and basically the ACC season's over. Man, I would love to see something happen to dispel that. But there is no team in college football that owns a division and a conference like Clemson does right now in the ACC. I don't even know if we've seen anything close to this going back to what Florida State was able to do in the ACC back in the 90s, right after they joined, when nobody beat them for years in the conference. But the conference was really bad then. So those are my 3 knocks on college football. On the field issues would be, number 1, the playoff system sucks. Number 2, the scheduling sucks. And number 3, it's almost like the NBA. We're talking about 5 or 6 teams. We're talking about 5 or 6 teams. So anyway, you guys are amazing. If there's anything that you wrote in the live chat that you would like for me to see, please copy and paste it and just leave it in the comment section of any of the videos. And remember that you can join us for 2 exclusive live streams each and every week at the Voice of College Football Community. The link is down in the description section. I will also say, for the 31 people online, if you do any Amazon shopping, please grab the link in the description section. And otherwise, the shopping experience is exactly the same. So why not help out the channel? Just grab the Amazon link in the description section of any of the videos and keep it somewhere where, if you're jumping online, you don't have to go back to, well, of course you want to go back to Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. But you got that link somewhere handy, and you just use that to do your Amazon shopping. All right, everyone. Bash, everyone else, thank you so much. Let's run it down. Justin Firm, George, Derek Freeman, yes. The Beast. Shaylanda, no, I did not get to your Minnesota schedule, but I did look at the Minnesota. I've been talking for 2 hours. I did get to your Minnesota schedule and did a record projection, and I did rank the schedule. So if you want to check out that video, it's on my channel. But certainly know that I am going to get to season previews. I don't know how many I'm going to get to. Last year, I did everybody, but I started so much earlier that it's going to be. And you guys know how I attack this stuff. That last year, when I did season previews, and a few people got mad at me and criticized me because I did some season previews, and because I'm all over online or verifying information and statistics and so forth, Like I got burned a couple times because somebody transferred like 2 days after I looked at the website. And so somebody transferred, and then people are like, you don't know what the hell you're talking about. Okay. And then I let them know, look at my preview videos and then go look at a bunch of other people's preview videos. I'm listing like 25 and 30 players. I'm like looking at every positional unit. I'm really diving into it. I'm not just going on there and saying, you know what, Urban Meyer's gone and Ryan Day took over and Justin Fields really good, but we got to wait and see. He's got to replace Dwayne Haskins' 50 touchdowns, and the Buckeyes are loaded on defense, even though they sucked last year. There's your preview. They're 11-1. No, I really dig into it. So I'm going to miss a few things if somebody transfers out of nowhere. And that's what happened last year because I was doing these season previews back in May when guys were skipping out on their programs and going elsewhere. So I don't know why I started in on that. Justin, thank you so much for the thanks. And Shanktopotamus and on and on and on. I dribble 2K2. Man, I find it very fascinating when people say great job like they've been watching for a long time, and I've never seen your handle before. I dribble 2K2. Welcome to Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. Thank you so much for the appreciation. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And we will see you guys soon. Tomorrow, I'm talking Miami football, USC, and SEC top 5 quarterbacks, running backs, and wide receivers. And you're going to see those videos posted very, very soon. So keep it locked in here. We will see you with another call-in show as soon as I can get to it. And I will say lastly, that last football season, for those of you that were with me, I had a live stream schedule that was consistent throughout the football season every week, and I aim to do that. So I apologize when I just say, hey, I'm doing a call-in show, and I jump on, and there's barely no notification, and I've been doing that since the football season. So thanks for hanging with me and just reacting and responding to these live call-in shows that are very impromptu at the last minute. So thank you so much. We will see you all very soon. And Mike, I missed your comment earlier. I know you love Florida State. I know you love the show. You're a great supporter. And yes, you can contribute in a number of ways. And I thank you and I appreciate it. We got AD on the line.